Hello, sixth graders. We are looking at telling time today, and our learning target is I can tell time using an analog clock. All right, whenever you see this icon, it means that there's something that we want you to think about before going through the rest of the notes. Today we want to think about how do you read an analog clock and what things do you already know about an analog clock. And some of you might be confused by that word analog clock right here. That's going to be our clocks that look like this. Okay, so the ones that you'll see around the school, things like that. We have some vocab words today that we need to know. They have to do with these types of clocks that we're looking at. And one of them, the first one is minute hand. Now, if we look at our clock, you see there's 3 different hands on the clock. There's a longer black one. Doesn't always have to be black, but in this case ours is. There's the shorter one, and then there's the red hand as well. The minute hand is going to be the longer hand, and we use the word hand when we're talking about clocks. The hour hand is the smaller one. Okay. And then the second hand is usually the red one. Okay. Minute hands tell us what minute it is during that hour. The hour hand tells us, as the name says, what hour it is. Okay, if it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, things like that. And then the second hand tells us what second it is during that minute. Okay? So those are all things that we look at in order to tell time. Okay, so now if we look at a clock here, okay, I want to go through and point out some of the things that you need to know. So like I said, this longer hand here, the one in blue, that's going to be the minute hand, okay? The green one here, that's our hour hand, the smaller of the two. And then in red, that's our second hand. Okay, so those are all the things that we use, like I said, to tell time. So for example, oops. So if we look at this clock here, we notice that I'm first going to look at the hour hand and notice that it's here on the 4. Oops, I do not want to be in a highlighter. We notice that it's here on the 4, which tells us that it's 4 o'clock. That's the hour we're in. Okay. The minute hand is directly on the 12. That means it's right at 4 o'clock, right on the hour. And then the second hand is on the 8. Okay, now when we're talking minutes or seconds, if you see all of these little dashes in here between the 12 and the 1, each one of those represents either 1 minute or 1 second, depending on what hand you're looking at. So from the 12 to the 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that this is the 5th one, which would represent 5 minutes or 5 seconds, like I said, depending on which hand you're looking at. And then it goes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the 2 represents 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And if you notice, there's kind of a pattern. It's counting by 5s. Okay, so 11, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The 4 is at 20. And if we keep counting by 5s, the 5 would be 25, the 6 would be 30, 7 would be 35, 8 would be 40, 9 would be 45, the 10 would be 50, the 11 would be 55, and the 12 would be 60. Or, if that's where you're starting, it would be the 0, depending on which one you're starting or if you're ending there. Okay? And another way you can think about it is you take the number that's on the clock and you multiply it by 5. So 2 times 5 equals 10, which tells us how many minutes. Same thing if we took 10 times 5, that gives us our 50. Okay, so a few little tricks here. So like I said, on the second hand, it's on the 8, which represents 40. So that means it's 4 o'clock and 40 seconds. Okay? So let's look here at some more examples. Okay? here's our first clock. Again, you have the hour hand is the shorthand. The minute hand is the longer hand. And then the seconds is in red. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the hour hand. And if you notice, it is between the 11 and the 12. Okay. That means it's 11 o'clock. That's what hour we're in. Now let's look at the minutes. And again, if you were to count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It's on the 8, so that means it's 11:40. And then the seconds hand, it looks like it's on the 4, moving 1 past it, which would be 1 more than 20, which is 21. So that means it's 11:40 and 21 seconds. And if you notice, like I said, this hour hand is in between the 11 and the 12 because since it's past 11:30, that's when the hour hand starts moving closer to the 12. So as we get closer to 12 o'clock, the hour hand gets closer to 12. Where if it was like 11:05, it would still be really close to the 11. It would probably be more like this, but we'll see that in some more examples. Okay, here's another one for us to try. Let's start with the hour hand. Okay, now if you look, it's in between the 1 almost to the 2. Okay, so that tells us it's 1 o'clock. We always go, if it's in between two numbers, we go with the 1, the lower of the 2. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock. If we look at the minute hand, it's right about at the 10, which again, if you count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, it's 1:50. And our minute hand is at the 9. 9 times 5 is 45, so that tells us it's 45 seconds. Okay. Again, we're almost to 2 o'clock. We're 10 minutes away, so that's why the hour hand is getting closer to the 2. Okay. Here are a couple for you to try on your own. If you feel comfortable, pause here, try them, and then come back and check. All right, let's take a look at this one. A little bit harder to see with the reflection on there, but our hand is between the 10 and the 11, which tells us it's 10 o'clock. The minute hand, well, here's 8, which is 40. 8 times 5 is 40, or again, you can count by fives. That would be 41, 42, 43, 44. Okay, so that's telling us, actually, let me undo that last one. Let's first take a look here at the seconds hand. Notice how the seconds are, we're 2 seconds away from the 12, which means we're right about to hit the next minute. So that means for our minute hand here, it's in between the, what would that be, 44, 43. So it's going to be to the lower one, 43, because we haven't quite hit the next minute, because our seconds are at, 58 seconds? So that tells us it's 10:43, and it's almost just about to hit 10:44. Okay. Next one. Okay, here's one. The hand is between the 8 and the 9, but now this time it's closer to the 8, okay, because of where our minute hand is located. So the hour is 8 o'clock. Okay. Our minute hand, well, the 4 is 20. This would be 21, and this one would be 22. So I'm going to say it's about 8:22. And then our seconds hand, this would be 5, 6, 7. So it's at about 7 seconds. So the time would be 8:22. Okay, just a few things to note, some terms that people use when they are talking about time, is things like quarter past, half past, quarter to, okay? think about a dollar. If we split a dollar into quarters, there's 4 quarters, correct? Same thing with a clock. We could divide this clock into 4 quarters, okay? And if we're talking about a time, let's say it's, let me do this with different colors here. Let's say there's our minute hand. Nope, that's backwards. I want this to be our hour hand, so it's going to be shorter. And that one is our minute hand right at the 3. Okay. Again, the 3 is 15. The 6 was 30. The 9 was 45. And this is either 0 or 60, depending on where we're starting. But this would tell us, well, we're at the 7, so it's 7. Okay. And our minute hand is at 15, so it's 7:15. Okay. Some people, instead of saying it's 7:15, they would maybe say it's a quarter past 7 or a quarter after 7. And that would just tell us, oh, that means it's 7:15. Okay, same thing if it was half past, so instead of it being 7:15, if it looked like that, that would mean 7:30 or half past 7. Okay? Just some different terms that people use. And the last one, quarter to, okay, that would be if here in green, our minute hand looked like that. Okay, so quarter to, okay, they would maybe say like quarter to 8 because the time is 7. The minute hand's at the 9, which is 45. Okay. So it's 7:45 right now, which means it's a quarter to 8. There's only this quarter left of the clock until we would hit 8 o'clock. Okay. Only 15 minutes left. Okay. Same thing with the half past. Okay. We've used this half of the clock. We're halfway through 7 o'clock, halfway to 8 o'clock. Okay. So those are just some terms that people use. Quarter past or quarter after, half past or quarter to, just to give people an idea of the time without actually saying 7:15. All right, so that is all for our telling time video. If you are still confused, you could go back and rewatch any part of the video. And if this was a lesson from the textbook, you could go and look through the textbook at their examples or at the online tutor video.